Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
As for abbreviations, EA means emotional affair, PA means physical affair, and OM means other man aka affair partner. The first one is titled, Part 1. My story probably starts like a lot of others. The signs have been there for a long time, but I chose to ignore them because I'm confrontation averse and was in denial. But I'm now sure my wife and my best friend have been having a secret relationship. No evidence, yet, of anything physical, for several years. We spend a lot of time together, wife, friend, me, with groups of friends, so it's always been obvious to me that they are close with each other. I guess I never really understood how close. I won't go into all the details of the things that tipped me off, but I got that sixth sense that they were talking with each other when I wasn't around. After suspicion got the best of me, I finally took the time to dig around and found her cell phone bills. She and my friend have been talking about 5 to 6 times per day for at least the last year. That's all the phone bills I was able to find. Who knows how long it has been going on? I see lots of calls that correspond with the time she's commuting to work and when she's at lunch. I looked at sometimes when I called her, and I was able to see that I interrupted her call with him. Then as soon as she and I were off the phone, she called him right back. Neither of them will ever call the other when I'm present, so they are clearly concealing their conversations from me. My job takes me to conferences all over the country for a week at a time once or twice a month, and I can see that when I've been out of town, many of the calls are later in the evening. Not sure if that is evidence that he's not coming over? Wishful thinking, perhaps. So now I'm not sure what to do. I think the first thing I have to do for my own sanity is figure out if there's a physical part to this relationship. How do I do that? Hidden camera? Hire a PI? I'm not sure I could afford that. Of course, I'm already thinking ahead to what I'll do whether I do or do not find any evidence of physical contact. This guy was my best friend. Between her and him, they are pretty much my whole world. We run in the same social circles, so cutting them off would be a big mess. Edited to add. BTW. All the other normal signs of an affair exist, too. Secretive with phone, spending more time online, sex trailed off considerably, seems more distant and so on and so on. Any thoughts on where I should go from here? Edit. Just phone calls that I have found out about. Text message app is set to not save history for just his number. I snuck a peek at her phone when she forgot it when going to the gym. I don't know her email password, so I haven't tried looking at email. No kids but are in the middle of doing fertility stuff. Oddly enough, we're not really trying naturally anymore, just focused on the IVF treatments. Married almost 7 years. Those kids could be involved soon is the reason for my sense of urgency. EDIT2. Thanks for the quick replies and advice, everyone. I did a little web reading before posting here, and acting normal is consistent advice. As much as I want to confront them both right now, I do realize that this would kill all hopes of ever getting to the truth about whether it got physical. It sounds like hearing what they are saying is the next best step. Edit 3. We are in between IVF treatments right now and there is no risk of her initiating sex with me, so I guess there is a silver lining there. If she gets pregnant right now, I will know one thing for sure. It is not mine. Phone is an Android from Sprint. I do not know the exact model. Given how much they seem to be talking on the phone according to the records, I think that is my best bet. VAR under the seat of her car. She drives a Lexus, so it should be nice and quiet in there. She has Bluetooth, so I bet I can hear both sides of the conversation. I'm going to get on that right away. I am going out of town in a couple weeks for a conference out west. That will be a good time to hear any sort of meeting plans. Someone asked about going to the gym. She works only midday and goes to the gym before work. The guy works in the other direction from her office. He works regular hours and has the type of job where he cannot get away from work easily during the day. She doesn't really have any time that I can't account for when I think they could get together other than when I go to my conferences. But that is often enough. Edit 4. I'm very nervous about installing something on her computer. She is really smart and observant. Doesn't antivirus software catch these programs trying to send all of this logged information from the computer to an online account? I think I'm going to start with VARs and listen in the car and then in the bedroom when I am at the next conference. These other things, GPS and keyloggers, sound like phase 2. Edit 5. In regard to the affair, he lives with his girlfriend and has for many years. His girlfriend has kids from a previous marriage, but he doesn't have any kids of his own. The interactions between my wife and this guy are one of the reasons I'm so suspicious. They are very clearly very good friends. It wouldn't surprise me if anyone who didn't know the two of you and saw all three of us out together in a social setting would identify them as being married and me being the friend. This is hard for me to admit. It's embarrassing. But I think this is probably very obvious to all of the other people who know us, and no one has said anything to me about it. I bet you've all heard this a million times, it seems so obvious now. EDIT 6. I earn quite a bit of money and the other guy is completely broke, struggling to pay for things day to day. The sad thing is, that I have been propping him up, too, for a long time. I think she desperately wants kids and is quite content with things the way they are now. Nice car, nice house, comfortable lifestyle and a friend with benefits that she finds more attractive and interesting. Even if they are having sex, they are talking a lot, too. She makes decent money, but not enough to support herself and him, which she would end up doing. I will know for sure soon enough, but part of me really does think that this is an EA only and that she will fight me hard when confronted saying that he's just a good friend that she enjoys talking to. Trust me, I've recently read a lot about EAs, and I do understand that they represent serious infidelity, and I will deal with it regardless of what I find about else is going on. Regarding the behaviors, it is little things like when her Diet Coke is empty, she'll steal some from his glass instead of mine. I confronted her about that once, and she said that she was doing me a favor, leaving mine alone. Also, whenever we're walking anywhere in a group, they will end up next to each other. He will never just walk near me, he always waits for her. There are some other things, but I'm afraid they are specific enough that I don't want to mention them on a public forum until this whole thing is out in the open. The marking her territory thing seems so right on. I had a strong visceral reaction to that, must be why. You are right, DK. I am thinking the EA is not as bad as a PA. In my mind, at this point, still processing it all, I think I could get past or over an EA, but if it got physical, that would definitely be the end for me. I'm going to need counseling one way or the other, soon. I don't want to go this road alone. Given the two really important people to me are involved, I won't have many other places to turn. EDIT 7. Still here. Still committed to the path. Trying to not let this consume me all day. I don't want my job to suffer the way my personal life is. In the process of gathering evidence. Travel, soon, too, so I'll have my answers soon. Be patient. I've found it cathartic to list out the things that are wrong with what she has done, even if there is no PA. I am hoping this will help prepare me to control my emotions when I do find additional evidence, and like everyone here, I believe I will. EDIT 8. Quick update. Tried to record yesterday but sensitivity was too low. I could see on the online phone records that they had a 30-minute conversation in the afternoon before I got home, but I wasn't able to capture it. Changed the sensitivity and relocated recorder for today. I'll let you know what I get. Definitely haven't changed their routine 5 calls yesterday. EDIT 9. I overheard a short conversation, but couldn't hear everything from the other side of it. Mostly just my W. She was just telling him about her day. Mundane stuff that no one but a spouse, so would ever sit and listen to day after day. They did have one nice little exchange where she was telling him about something she wanted to do to our house and said that I wouldn't want to spend the money. Then the OM said, yeah, he, meaning me, wouldn't. Then my W said mockingly in a voice that I assume was supposed to be me, we're not spending any more money. Then they both laughed at me. Awesome. Also, something an earlier poster said really has stuck with me. No straight man in the world would talk to a woman 5 to 7 times a day, every day, for a year or more without getting some pee, if you know what I mean. I'm paraphrasing and added the straight part, but I think this is true. Also, this dude isn't passive, and I have a hard time believing he'd hang on that long to something like that. But, you never know, sometimes a rough exterior doesn't tell the whole story. He's not very responsible, and I just yesterday heard from another friend that he's on the rocks with his live-in girlfriend. Go figure. Puzzle pieces that fit are flying in from every direction. Edit 10. Thanks for the ongoing support. Just checking in so you all know I haven't cracked or found a smoking gun just yet. Preparing to go out of town and have upped my surveillance arsenal. If there's any visitation going on, I'll know by the end of the week. Keep your fingers crossed for me and send positive thoughts my way. I'm about sick of this in-between mode. It really is torture. Edit 11. I'm several states away, now, and hoping to have something more definitive when I get home later this week. Phone records show more of the same, regular lunch, commute phone calls plus several extra calls in the evening. Makes me believe that he's not visiting our house given the timing of the calls. Being betrayed sucks. I still cannot believe that the happy, cheery woman I just talked to on the phone is hanging up with me and immediately calling another man and chatting for another 30 minutes after she already spoke to him several times earlier in the day. But the evidence shows that's clearly what is happening. The deceit really is the worst part. Edit 12. Even though I've been fantasizing about it, I don't want to walk in on them. While gratifying on some level and clearly definitive, I'm afraid of how that situation could turn ugly or physical. The Ohm is not a small guy, and I know that he has a history of getting in fights when he was younger. I think I'll let judgment be the better part of valor here. Okay, call me a wimp, and let electronic means capture the action for me. As cool and calculating as I'm being now, I can imagine the rage I'd feel walking up to my house if his car was in the driveway. The last thing I need is to do something stupid. Where did I put those golf clubs? And ruin my position of relative squeaky clean strength. Here. Edit 12. Hey friends. No significant updates since I'm away right now. Anxious, of course, as to what I'll find as far as evidence goes when I get home tomorrow night. One small bummer, my access to the cell phone records has been cut off. This morning when I went on, in addition to the normal password, it asked me the name of her first pet, and I don't know that. I assume it is just a normal procedure that after a certain number of logins, they ask you. Could be that I've logged in too many times over the last week. Anyway, I was smart enough to save off all the activity from the last year while I did have access. No denying that, now. Having a little time away from home has put me into sort of a low-grade funk. I'm just so bummed that this is happening to me. But, I haven't lost my resolve to deal with it properly when I get home. I believe I'm not going to find any visits to the house, but hopefully will overhear enough on the phone to help make my decision easy. We'll see. More updates once I am able to view, listen to my devices on Thursday night or Friday. Edit 13. Oh man, these hurts. Smoking gun. Video of his car showing up at my house around 7 p.m. and leaving at 10:30 p.m. each night I'm gone. Damn. I've got a couple hours to get myself under control before she comes home tonight. I think I'm going to try and see a lawyer tomorrow before I confront her. Oh man, honestly, the whole way home on the plane I was thinking about but this is the big D absolutely. Positively, F** and K. I think the good news is, the VAR in the bedroom didn't work. I thought I wanted to hear it. Now I'm pretty sure I don't. I'll stay strong. Just a couple more days. Maybe just one more day. Edit 14. Hey gang. I really do appreciate all the advice, but the point has come where I need to make my own way. This is all the evidence I need. I don't need evidence of sex, penetration or anything else like that. What I have evidence of is a prolonged deception, lying to my face, joking about me behind my back and now visits while I'm out of town. The decision is now made. Divorce. I've already got a call into the attorney. Trying to arrange for a meeting tomorrow. Also trying to arrange to talk to a therapist tomorrow. Hoping I can do the confrontation and get started on my new reality and new life this weekend. I know this is far from being finished, but the first step is often the hardest, and I honestly now can't wait to get this out in the open. IF asterisk and king hate sneaking around, even if it is to catch a liar. That's just not me. Once this is out in the open, I'll share a lot more details with you all that will blow your minds. Stay tuned. Mini update. Well, unfortunately most of the shocking details are more around my situation than in the evidence camp. Nonetheless, the plot is thicker than I've revealed. Thanks again for the support. Appointment with attorney tomorrow at 11 a.m. Edit 15. I've now got attorney and psychotherapist appointments for tomorrow. Tonight, I've got a buddy who knows what is going on to go have dinner with. I'm setting my path. I'm steeling myself for the worst. I need to decide the order of who to talk to and how to do this. I think I agree with the others that I will give her the courtesy of asking her what went on this weekend, because when she lies straight to my face again, it will be that much easier to tell her that she's made her bed, now she gets to lie in it. One of the other details, we just closed on a new house a few weeks ago. What was I doing this past weekend? Moving. Yes, that's right, while I was tortured about all of this I was moving us into a huge new house. I had Ohm and my buddy over for drinks on our new deck Friday night. I'm a real glutton for punishment. The thin silver lining. She's been bending over backwards to redecorate and remodel our old house so we can sell it. Little does she know that either she or I will be living in that other house in a few days. So there's one more disclosure. Trust me, the next one is going to turn your collective stomachs even more than this. Thanks once again, everyone, for bringing and sharing your perspectives. I know everyone is trying to help, and I appreciate it. An admission, I've bent a few of the facts about myself and my W in order to keep this thread from resonating too closely with someone who knows me, but at this point I sort of don't give a crap anymore. The truth is that W has a real job, probably makes about $85,000 a year. I make 3 times that. So, there is a big disparity and I'm going to end up paying her part of that difference for at least a few years, I'm sure. I'm growing increasingly comfortable with my decision. All of my anxiety now is just about the mechanics of telling her and then having to be in her presence as either she or I move out of the new house and into the other house. I have a feeling she isn't going to be very, cooperative. Edit 17. I've got nothing going on the side. No, candidates. I figure 18 months from now I'll still be visiting a therapist trying to figure out how to trust anyone after the 2 closest people in my life were living a double life they designed to keep me out of for the last 5 to 6 years. My greatest failing? Failure to communicate my needs is definitely one of them. I've absolutely contributed to allowing this to happen by not speaking up when I saw all the signs for years. Travel for work goes in spurts. I travel a couple days a week, probably 2 weeks a month. Some months I don't travel at all. I'm always home by 7 p.m. and work from home on most Fridays. I've always been there for her. I have a stressful job, but I'm definitely not a workaholic. W has supported all of my career decisions along the way. That's never been a topic of argument or disagreement for us. Not being able to give her a child added a ton of tension to our marriage, for sure. But, to be specific, the issues weren't with the sperm, so I can't believe she's just getting back at me for that. I've also probably let myself go a little. I'm probably 25 to 30 pounds heavier than I should be, but I weigh maybe 15 pounds more than when she met me. I do feel guilty about the rush I'm getting from actually having a supportive group of people here, cheering me on. But I think if you read the whole thread, you'll see that I've been the first to say that many of the suggestions were too over the top. You think I have very little evidence? I have proof that my wife has been lying to me every single day for at least a year and is secretly spending 3+ hours a day with another man in our house while I'm out of town, lying to me about what she was doing while I was gone. I have evidence of her calculated deceit. I don't know where your bar lies for evidence, but this where my own personal comfort zone ends. I don't care if they're screwing or doing needlepoint. It's the ongoing deceit. I'd never trust her again. Edit 18. It's done. I am very grateful for much of the advice I got here. There's no way I would have been prepared or been strong enough to do what I did this morning without what I learned here. I would have gotten it wrong, and I would be trapped in this situation for who knows how long. I'll write up the full details of confrontation later today when I'm at a proper keyboard, but the bottom line is that I was able to drag out of her that she had sex with the ohm in our new house this week. It's clearly been physical from start to finish. Years. She is pushing hard for reconciliation, but the path for me is clear. The marriage is over. I'm very happy that I have enough of the truth now to know that it was a PA and not just an EA. Lots of grieving and rebuilding to do, now. Please don't flood me with responses about getting finances in order. It's not what I need right now. I'll take care of that on Monday. That being said, I think I will go get my own bank account today. Might be therapeutic. Edit 19. I'm in the now what phase right now. My days were always filled with spending time with either my wife or my former best friend. I don't want to be at the old house on the off chance either one of them comes there. Ohm has called and texted asking me to call him. No thanks. It would feel great to let loose on him, but I'm not going to do that. I've taken the high road every step along the way, and I'm going to continue to do that. I've had a couple of minor breakdowns this morning. I called a good friend who was betrayed by his wife several years ago. He broke down on the phone, because he knows exactly what I'm going through right now. God, this suck. This is so not what I wanted. But, that being said, I am holding my head high. I just went for a walk on the beach, and I'm looking around thinking how much I have to be thankful for. I'm only 43. I'm healthy. I have the love and support of my family. I have great friends who have already been and will be there for me through all this. I have a great career and a stable financial position. I will be okay. I'm getting a chance to start again and find someone who appreciates me and wants my love. This really is the first day of my new life. Edit 20. To be clear, I'm not afraid of any sort of threat of violence from the ohm. He's been trying to reach me, and I just don't want to talk to him. I also don't want to deal with my W either. I did go back to the house. Pretty depressing going in there, it's almost completely empty since we moved out last week. No TV, no plate, cup or fork. Bed but no bedding or pillow. It all sort of hit me that I am really starting from scratch. My friends have been great. Lots of folks are out of town, but everyone is taking time on the phone with me. Next week will be tough. Coming home from the office to an empty house, dinner for one, etc. be an adjustment. But I'll find my little reminders that will help keep me focused. New beginning, new beginning, new beginning. And yes, I will go get checked for HIV, STD. That will be a sad appointment to make, but it is worth it. Edit 21. Hey everyone. It was a rough day. I had a couple small breakdowns throughout the day. Shopping for sheets, a pillow and a towel just so I can exist in the old empty house was particularly rough. I'll post a full recount of the confrontation tomorrow in hopes that someone can learn or benefit from it in the future. Everything you all said would happen happened. I don't know how I mustered the courage to stay strong through it, but I felt really prepared from what I learned here. I have called a bunch of our common friends to let them know what happened. All were shocked. All want to hurt both my STBXW and the ohm. I think I might be able to find contact info for the OM's GF. I think you are all right. She deserves to know. I'm trying to line up dinners and meetings with friends, etc. for the next few days to keep myself busy. I will rebuild myself, stronger, better, faster. I hate to say it, but we will walk away with about $500,000 before any spousal support, which I'll probably have to pay for 5 years. If she wants to, she'll have no trouble supporting both of them for a while. But that won't last forever at the rate she likes to spend. Edit 22. Why are divorces so expensive? Because they're worth it. I love this. You know who told me that joke many years ago? Ohm. I've been incredibly fortunate and just got a huge payoff a few months ago from over 8 years of very hard work in a small company I helped to build, grow and sell. Now half of that will be gone in a snap of the fingers. In the long run, I will actually be better off financially than if I stayed in the marriage. I know how to sacrifice for long-term benefit. My STBXW does not, obviously. So, now I can actually save some money for my future with someone who will appreciate it more. I live in a no-fault divorce state, since someone asked. Edit 23. I lied about it being only 7 years of marriage. That was when I was trying to be stealthy. It's been almost 10 years. STBXW is texting me frantically right now, begging me to hear her out and give her the chance to prove to me that she can be the person I deserve. I told her she doesn't deserve that chance and she isn't getting it from me. I told her that swapping fluids with him and then having sex with me is the most selfish, horrible thing she could possibly have done. Told her I was getting STD and HIV testing and she should do the same. Has a very sordid history, and I doubt he's clean. As for the confrontation, here's the full story. I was all amped up to confront her on Friday night, but her mother came over to our house and we all had dinner together. It was awful. She was being so nice to me, it was killing me inside to think that this is the woman that is cheating on me. Anyway, her mom stuck around too late, and I was emotionally and mentally exhausted and knew that I couldn't deal with it that night. The next morning, I almost started the conversation in bed. But I couldn't do it. So, I took a shower and headed downstairs for a cup of coffee. She eventually came down, and after a couple minutes of pacing around and readying myself for battle, I said, "Honey, there's something that's been bothering me for a while now that I need to talk to you about. What would you say is your relationship to Om?" She first said that he's like a brother. I then asked how often she talked to him. To my surprise, she did say that it was almost every day. She immediately put the blame on him. He's very needy. He's always calling me and saying, "Call me over lunch, call me on your way home." So then I started asking her if she ever sees him, face to face, when I'm not around. Again, to my surprise, there was a small admission. She said that very occasionally, when I was out of town for a long time, they would have dinner together. We started going around in circles on this. She was saying how he is her closest friend, and she doesn't have any other close friends, and that he isn't so much like a brother but more like a girlfriend or a gay guy friend. She even admitted, when I pushed, that yes, she might complain to him about me just like she would with any other girlfriend. When I implied that this is an affair, she blew up at my use of that word. She started to come around and say, yes, she can now see that keeping this from me was wrong and why I might be upset about that, and she's very, very sorry. I asked if they ever kissed and she said no. So I kept pushing. I told her that I know a lot more than she thinks I know, and that this is her one and last chance to be totally honest with me if she wants to save our marriage. So, I started asking again about how often she would see him when I was out of town. She kept insisting that he only came over once in the last week, just brought dinner, stayed for 5 minutes and was gone. This was the thing she kept lying about that allowed me to keep saying to her, "I know you are lying about some of the things you're telling me," and I could keep asking questions. So then I got her to admit that, just once, they kissed a little bit. So, I kept pushing and pushing. Then I got her to admit that they had sex, just once a long time ago. It was terrible mistake that escalated, and it never happened again. So, I kept pushing and pushing. Then I got her to admit that it was 2 times, that they had sex, of course, a long time ago. So, then I said, that if she wants to earn my trust back, it needs to start now. I said we're going to call the Om together. I'm going to say that you've come completely clean and told me the whole truth, and we're going to ask him the number of times. And if it is a small, specific number, then he should have the same number. I could tell by the look on her face, that this wasn't going to play out well. So, I said, "How many times?" She said nothing. I said, "More than 20? She said, "Oh no, it was probably less than 20. So, then I asked the last thing I needed to know. When was the most recent time? No answer. So, I said, did you have sex with him in our new house on our new bed this week? She just stared at the ground and said, I don't want to answer that. I said she didn't have to say anything, she already answered it. I told her I needed to leave and was going to the other house. I went upstairs and got my suitcase, a couple toiletries and nothing else. I was in shock and not thinking straight. As I walked out the door, she was curled up in the middle of the floor. I said nothing and walked out the door. Edit 24. Sta's mother just called me. She started by begging me to give her daughter another chance because everybody makes mistakes, but everybody deserves another chance. She said, she really loves you and wants to be with you, not with Om. I said she should have thought of that when Om was on top of her, and king her in our bed in our house. She actually did a lot more blame shifting than my WW did. She kept saying that there must have been problems in our relationship and our marriage that forced her daughter to look elsewhere and that I owed it to her daughter and to myself to figure out what that was. I told her that while I agree that our marriage wasn't perfect back when this all started, I thought it was pretty good and that my WW never once told me that she wasn't satisfied with things. Her decision to go outside the marriage was her own selfish decision. It wasn't my refusal to work with her on any issues. We went round and round, her saying that her daughter loves me and is a good, trustworthy person who has ended her relationship with the Om. I pointed out again and again that the only reason that relationship is over was because I caught them. She didn't make that decision and ask to work on our relationship. She only is asking to work on the relationship since I took away her preferred option of having her cake and king it too. Also had a text exchange with my WW. Here's my favorite from her in response to me saying, how the hell could you do this to me? I wasn't doing anything to you. I just let a close relationship get too far. Boy, if I wasn't resolved before to get this person out of my life. Her statement that she doesn't see this as doing anything to me makes me sure that I do, indeed, deserve better. However, her mother is a wonderful person who is just trying to keep her daughter's world from collapsing around her. She told me that when her daughter told her about the affair this morning, she was devastated and asked how she could do something so stupid. She also said to me that she was always uncomfortable with their obvious close relationship, and she now really regrets not saying something. She said, I never could have believed that she would do something like this. I have to believe this is very hard for her to see her daughter go through, especially because the daughter is so clearly at fault. I don't hold anything against her trying to say anything to me to try to get another chance for her daughter. I probably misrepresented the call in my post above. It was a good conversation for me to have, and I have a lot of respect for her trying to help her daughter. I do believe that she wasn't aware of what was going on, but like me, saw the signs all along but didn't act on them. Edit 25. Just let her know that I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. She said she wishes we could work it out, but she understands. She said, you're a great person. I am not. My God, these hurts. Even with the horrific images in my head of them together, the pain of flushing the last 12 years of my life, courtship plus marriage, is unreal. I'm going to miss her so much. I know better days are ahead for me, but this is just awful. I always thought she was too good to be true. Turns out I was right. Also, I absolutely enabled this by looking the other way. I knew it in the moment, and I know it now. This will absolutely be something that I work through with myself, with my friends and with my therapist over the coming weeks and months. I truly do hope that I learn something about myself that will help me to have a healthier long-term relationship in the future. BTW. You have to find a little humor in this to stay sane. A common friend of Om and me who didn't yet know what was going on sent me an email yesterday saying, hey, if you see Om, tell him to get some sleep. He sounded horrible on the phone when I talked to him today. Back at work, today. Took down the pictures in my office of me and STBXW. I don't yet know what I'm going to say to my coworkers. All they know is I took Friday off for a family emergency, so I'm sure they'll all be curious. Wonder if I should just get it out in the open? Edit 26. Hey everyone. I feel like I've done a bit of disservice in describing my STBXW. I don't want to portray her as a money-grubbing, big-spending, high-maintenance type of person with expensive tastes. She is not that at all. I think it is important for anyone reading this thread now or in the future to know that she, on the surface, really did seem like a very good, practical person. When I say that she was accustomed to spending money, I mean that it just never occurred to her to sacrifice anything in order to save money for the future. We bought this big house and immediately was already getting estimates for new floors, painting the walls, new fixtures in the bathrooms, etc. without ever really consulting me on any of it. She's never spent a lot of money on clothing, shoes or stuff like that. She's never demanded expensive cars, etc. So, demonizing her as a spendthrift isn't accurate. Sorry, but I let that get out of control and it isn't right. She's done a lot to hurt me, but cleaning me out isn't a primary sin. Things are improving after my wife cheated on me while I was working my butt off. I heard from her yesterday. She wanted to talk. I told her there was nothing to talk about and that she wasn't getting a second chance. When I told her I was filing, she expressed her regrets but accepted it. I'm not going to get upset that she isn't fighting for our marriage. Maybe she has come to the same conclusion I have. Our relationship was a lot hollower than it looked from the outside. Whether that was cause or effect in regard to the affair almost doesn't matter now. Ohm tried to call and text just the morning of the confrontation. Haven't heard from him again. I did find his address and home phone number. Now debating what to do with that info. I don't have his GF's email or direct phone number, which would make contacting her easier. I don't want to risk leaving a message and him finding it. I have a very small, but real, worry that me telling his GF might send him over the cliff, which could result in violence toward me. Although I'm having small near breakdown moments here at the office, I just signed the divorce petition and sent it back to my attorney. Having the distraction and being out of the mostly empty house is helping me on balance. I've made plans for nearly every evening this week to be with friends. My direct boss is getting married this weekend, so I'm probably not going to give him all the sordid details. I don't want to taint him. I've let a couple of others know who are close to me. They all say the same thing: I'm so sorry, and what can I do to help? I've basically just asked for a little empathy and understanding if I disappear on short notice to either take care of things or if I'm having a mini meltdown. I'm not eating much, but I have imposed a no fast food rule, as I could easily see myself slipping into a trap of poor eating. My soon-to-be ex-wife did all of the cooking, or ordering out, or picking up prepared food, etc., so this is another adjustment for me. I lived on my own for 10 years before we were together, so I will manage just fine. It's just another part of my new reality. I am being careful to make sure that I'm not cutting corners here. I'll be getting fish, veggies, etc. instead of frozen dinners. She had a real sweet tooth, and this is my opportunity to keep that crap out of the house altogether. I am hoping that cooking will be therapeutic for me. I feel just a tiny bit better today than yesterday. I'm proud of my own resolve, and the blue sky on the other side of the fog seems attainable. Edit 28. Each day is a little better. Had some very civil contact with the soon-to-be ex-wife who wants to come by the old house to collect a few things left over here, for the cats. I can only hope this level of civility and cooperation continues. Mill called my mom yesterday to try to convince me that R is possible. My mom, whom my father cheated on for years when I was in elementary school before she finally divorced him, kept cool and just said that she supported my decision. My phone keeps ringing throughout the day and evening, true friends calling just to chat and keep me busy, checking in to see that I'm okay. I've gotten half a dozen offers of come and stay with us. But I feel like not abandoning my neighborhood is important to me now. Even though all the memories in the house I'm staying in haunt me a little, on balance I think standing my ground there is helping me. Why should I have to run and hide at a friend's house? TV on order. Cable and internet being installed Friday. My first small steps towards building my own new life. Edit 29. Alright, I manned up and I am trying to contact my wife affairs partner. Her home phone number listed as disconnected. Money problems, I'm guessing. I thought I knew the grocery store that she managed, but I've spent 10 minutes calling different ones. got to a central manager who never heard her name. I've tried Facebook, LinkedIn and just combing through the Google searches. Any other ideas? While I'm not fond of the idea of staking out his house and following her to work, it would be worth taking a day off to do that if necessary. Edit 30. Thanks for the encouragement, folks. The funny thing is, we started to really fix the place up because we were going to sell it. We remodeled the kitchen, all new doorknobs, painted, some landscaping, power washed the decks, etc. The place looks awesome, and I was initially bummed that we weren't going to get to enjoy all the improvements ourselves. If only I knew. I'm resisting the urge to spend a dime on anything beyond the bare necessities. Not sure why, but I feel like a few months of rather austere living might be really good for me. Okay, a new TV and the every channel in the world cable package aren't exactly minimalist in nature, but you know what I mean. I want to see where I land, financially, after the divorce is settled. It's not going to be bad, but it's only going to be half as good as it is today. I have to say that I consider myself incredibly fortunate in this regard. My heart breaks for the folks in some of the threads that I've read where both parties, and even one, are left in financial ruin at the end. This is stressful enough, and that's just with dividing up a pretty big pie. I can't imagine throwing financial survival into the mix as a concern. That must be horrible. I want to focus on ME, and not by getting a car, but by spending more time on my bike or more time on the trails or more time on the beach. I'm blessed to live in a place with incredible resources, and since I've been married, I've stopped taking advantage of those, not blaming W for that. But it is time to get back to the basics and diversify myself a little. Edit 31. GF, my wife's affairs female partner, just messaged me back saying that she knows about the relationship, told her. She gave me her cell and said she's open to talking about it. I'm going to give her a call to see just how much he's told her. Also, he may have disclosed his plans for the future. Moving out on GF so he can live with my soon-to-be ex-wife? I'm sadly curious. Also, I tried one last time to look at the phone records. Password changed, so they at least figured that much out. Edit 32. A few things to respond to. 1. Yes, I already signed the divorce papers. I'm not fighting for someone who spent most of her day, every day, for 6 years, carefully conducting a relationship with another man so that I was completely kept out of it. It wasn't a second relationship. It clearly was her primary relationship. I was, indeed, the just not legally. 2. Neither has reached out again. W and I have exchanged a couple logistical texts. Can I come by the old house to pick up X, etc. At first I did have that. You mean that's it? That's all she's going to fight for me? Thoughts. But you know what? If I'm really honest with myself, I've seen the quality of the relationship with my wife degrade over the last 6 years. Because of the affair or a catalyst for the affair? It almost doesn't matter at this point. Buried inside me somewhere is a small, and growing, sense of relief that I'm getting out of this situation and get a fresh start. That being said, I am, and don't let me off the hook, going to work with my therapist and on my own to examine how I contributed to letting the relationship crumble over time and how I let this go on for so long. Both of these are things I need to address for my own good and for the good of any future so of mine. 3. We are on completely separate cell phone plans, so that's not a concern. She has changed the password on her account, so that's one less thing for me to obsess over. Edit 33. In regard to my wife's affair, I'm cautious of him because he's a big, physical guy with a history of fights in his past. I think it is not only practical but wise advice. Don't ever get into a fight with someone who has nothing to lose. Other than the physical aspect, I'm not afraid of him. I contacted his GF yesterday and I'm going to call her today to make sure she knows the whole truth. I've also called just about all of our common friends to make sure they know the truth about my W and My guess is that he's had a string of people calling him and browbeating him. That being said, another good friend of mine told me to have pretty low expectations if I think that our circle of friends will completely ostracize the two of them. He said, and I believe it, that people are in general quite tolerant and resilient when it comes to things like this, and the two of them will be back in decent standing before too long. Hearing about, or seeing, W and Ohm going out as a couple with some of our common friends will be one of those future kick in the nuts that I'll have to prepare myself for. Edit 34. A user commented, not saying they did it to get the D started. Saying he knows you guys have money. He knows she is his. He put it in your face every time you guys was out. He is using her, and if cause a D, she will walk with money. Get me now? This scum is scum, I know. No matter what, he walks a winner. Now see, this is where you have to be the douche. And let me say, you will not get a criminal record for draining all accounts. Since most of the money was earned by you. Move everything. Bonds, funds, close and reopen in your name only. CDs, same thing. I'm talking everything, but this has to be done quickly. So lay out a list with every ACC, starting with the largest amounts you want protected. I don't think he is some finance guy, so you should be able to end run them on this. As for spending, didn't you earn this money? Then spend it how you want. Call your money manager before she does. But, you may have to find out if the ACCs are locked since you filed. We always advise taking care of these things before filing for that reason. Either way, talk to your mouthpiece about setting up the house, or, if you want to be an ass, kicking her out of the new one so you can move into it. I actually like that. It has been sullied less. And he won't get the pleasure of it. Actually, what is considered the primary residence now? If it's the old place. Put the other on the market now. Op then responded, my attorney is giving me exactly the opposite advice, and since I'm paying her $425 an hour, I'm going to follow her directions. I mean, no disrespect to you, of course. She said that the summons my W will get today has temporary restraining orders on all property and accounts. That means she can't touch anything, and neither can I, until the property is divided. All of our accounts are joint accounts. This means neither she nor I can close them without the other's consent anyway. To make matters slightly more complicated, my W is in finance and manages all of our money. So, there will be some discovery to do there to make sure that we uncover all of the money we both have invested or stored away. Neither of us can sell anything, open lines of credit against assets, etc. My attorney suspects that when W gets the petition, summons today, she'll retain an attorney and they will immediately file a motion for spousal support. That is actually the best thing that could happen, since then we will have to cover all of the expenses on the residence she's living in, the new house, from her own pocket, plus my support. Since that house is bigger, more expensive, higher taxes, higher utilities, more landscaping upkeep, etc. I'd like to see that all coming 100% out of what she's eventually going to get instead of it coming out of the funds to be divided. Edit 35. By the way, my wife managed the money, but I've always had and watched the statements. I would have seen any large withdrawals. And, although I am ashamed and embarrassed to admit it, I was the one that was propping up the Ohm financially. I paid for a lot of things for him in exchange for him doing work. He is a talented craftsman in some trades I have a need for. But I don't think we've ever come close to squaring up. I'm sure he'd say he's done way more for me, us, really, than what I've paid, but I see it the other way. I also didn't realize he was getting Kitty as compensation, too. Edit 36. Just spoke to the Ohm GF. She knew about it 6 years ago. But she thought it was just a little fling that ended after 5 months. And she apologized that she never reached out to me, but she thought it was up your W if she wanted to tell you. I didn't want to break anyone up. Boy, you all were so right about reaching out to her. She had no idea that it had continued, and she didn't realize the explosion on the other end, my end, this past weekend. She told me, I'm still trying to process this all, but that she's ending it with Ohm immediately. Also, I don't think I want both houses sold. I don't care what she gets. I just want what I want. I like the house I'm in and don't want her to try and push me out of this one. If she stays in the new house, it's going to be very expensive for her on her own. Would rather see it bleed her, them dry. To be clear, the houses will be assessed a fair value and then they need to be divided equally. So, if she wants to stay in that one, she'll have to give up an amount of cash equal to buying me out of the equity we have in it, the down payment, essentially. Correspondingly, I'll have to buy her out of this one. While this one is smaller and worth less, we have more equity in it, so I'll owe her more money. I'd rather work it out that way than have to deal with selling the houses, paying realtor fees, etc. Edit 37. There are a lot of smart people on here. Yes, mortgage will be about $3,100 for the first few years before they'll have to lock in at a slightly higher rate. Spousal support, simply a fact of life given California law, will be around $1,300 after taxes. So, if she's bringing in $5,500-ish per month, doubt it will be attractive to Pat that mortgage plus taxes, at least $1,000 per month, plus insurance. Ohm can't contribute squat. Even if he dumps GF, they sell their house, underwater, he's still got a pair of kids in college. This means WW is starting to take down the cash she'll have in the bank starting day one. That's the road to hell. I wouldn't want to be on it, especially with a trailer full of freeloaders hitched to your ass. Good luck. Tonight I had dinner with a couple, old friends, who reminded me again just how blessed I am to be surrounded by such caring, loving people. To measure WW and Ohm against these people is a joke. Geez, several of you on this forum are quicker to come to my defense than my wife of almost 10 years. It's sad that it has taken such a tragedy to help me see what is really worth valuing in life. People who love you and you can trust. Dr. APPT went fine. Blood tests and therapist tomorrow. Friend's house in Sonoma for the weekend. I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. Clarifications. 5.5 would be total income including spousal support. 85 is a full-time job. The house that's underwater that I referred to is the house the Ohm and his GF have together. The only way I can see for her to remain in that house is if she lives an otherwise very frugal life, house poor, spends a bunch of the settlement cash to pay it down to lower payments, no money left to invest for future, or gets mommy to start paying part of the mortgage. Third option is probably what will happen. Edit 38. I think some others have already mentioned it, but when I put the timing together of when the three of us, me, WW, Ohm, all started to be friends instead of acquaintances and then the information I got from Ohm GF about when she caught them and how long Ohm told her it was going on, it's pretty clear to me that WW and Ohm were together from literally the first day in Ohm and I started being friends. When I've been saying best friend, I really mean closest friend. I have other people in my life that I go way back with who will always be the most special people in my life, but this guy and I spent almost, clearly not all, of our free time together on weekends, working on our hobby stuff. There were times we put in super late night, long days getting ready for events, etc. WW would always bring us food, we paid for Ohm, of course, to keep us going. I think now about how great this was for her, two men working together, happily, and her sleeping with whichever one happened to be in her bed that night. Anyway, from a timeline perspective, as others have said, he was never really my friend. He buddied up to me for access. What a dick. For what it's worth, we could sell the house we just bought for what we paid for it, minus a few points for realtor fees, etc. So, that would almost be a wash. We put a couple $100K down, so that would be the equity, we'd split. The house I'm in would sell for about $250,000 more than we owe on it, so it'll cost me half of that to own this one myself. Edit 39. Just going about the business of getting on with my life. Great weekend with friends. Got rip-roaring drunk, in a good way. On Saturday night in Glen Ellen at a martini bar, restaurant. Went flying Sunday morning with a buddy. Did some cleanup around the house on Sunday afternoon and then a B-day party for another buddy. My new normal is great. I am very anxious to get started with the D proceedings. I spent some more time listing out essentially every single asset we own, down the floor lamp and the coffee table. Since pretty much everything is at the new house that my wife is in, I want to make sure that I somehow get compensating at least a little for all the things that I'm going to have to go out and buy for myself. I'm going to get the locks changed at the house I'm staying in this week. That's a really good idea. I know that has a key to the house. He was such a close friend that he house sat for us to take care of the plants and cats while we were on vacations. At work for the second week. I need to stop checking in here so much during the day and refocus on kicking ass at work. Edit 40. Howdy, folks. I've got a pretty unremarkable update. But, for the record, I'm doing just fine. The soon-to-be ex-wife and I are corresponding almost daily, all business, agreeing to many things around the D so that our attorneys have very little to discuss. She's been incredibly civil and cooperative. I have to imagine that she just wants out of this, too. I can live with that. The has slowly started to crawl out of the darkness and has pinged a couple of our common friends who, of course, immediately just told me. He was texting things like, "Life is basically over, so sad," crap like that. Interesting choice of words, sad. Not, "Feel so guilty," or, "What have I done," or, "Really sorry." I think both soon-to-be ex-wife and both have compartmentalization issues and don't see how what they've done really affects anyone but them. Anyway, not focusing on that. Just going about my business of closing common accounts, getting utilities at the new house out of my name, establishing my own credit, accounts, etc. Lots of little things to do. Oddly, I'm finding each one a small victory and a bright spot instead of a trigger to mourn. I continue to realize with more clarity that our marriage was dead for a long time before this D-Day. Edit 41. Well, haven't posted for a few days because things have been really good. I'm settling into my new routine. I'm still not sleeping well, and while I'm eating good food, I really just don't have much of an appetite. I've lost about 10 pounds in the last 2.5 weeks, but not from a lot of exercise but rather from not eating as much. Maybe I'm eating the right amount now, who knows? Soon-to-be ex-wife, should that be ETBXW as in eventually, doesn't sound like divorce, and soon should be in the same sentence. And I have been communicating more, all civil. I'm actually going to see her face-to-face for the first time tomorrow night. I'm going to the other house to pick up some remaining clothing and other stuff that she said I should take. We had good conversation about how we're both dealing with it but haven't talked about it at all. I don't think she's ready for that just yet. She's seeing a therapist, too, now. She hasn't shared much with me about that, but just said that in the first meeting the therapist was just gathering information about our communication problems, and about her family history, relationships, etc. Sigh, I need some sleep. Edit 42. Seeing my soon-to-be ex-wife on Friday was such a non-event that I honestly just forgot to post an update. I took a friend with me, and we just made a couple back-and-forth trips for me to collect some more of my things. Seeing her wasn't a trigger for either anger or sadness. It was almost clinical. I'm feeling stronger every day. Also had to return a key to the for the space we rented together. I had half a dozen very passive-aggressive messages thought up to send him when I told him where I left the key, but I opted to take the high road and just say, "Here's where the key is." He just replied, "Okay, thanks." In other news, I had the great pleasure of actually meeting up with S&C for some sushi last night. I must say, it was great to actually get to shake hands and thank in person just one of the many on this forum who helped me beyond measure through one of the most difficult things I've had to face. I love you guys and gals. He also gave me hope that great relationships are possible, but that they don't come easy. You've got work for them. A great lesson to learn as I move forward. Edit 43. A couple other questions to answer or address. Yes, she did contribute to the properties. While I make considerably more than her, the money she made went into the pot, and went towards the property taxes and other stuff related to the house, if not the mortgage payment directly. So, if you were headed towards making the case that she doesn't really deserve a piece of the property, that's not the case. And, about them feeling remorse or guilt. If they do or did and I reported on it, I was wrong. I've seen my soon-to-be ex-wife multiple times and the words, "I'm sorry," have never materialized. Now, to be fair, we've had essentially no conversation about what, why, how since the day after I walked out. We've only talked simple logistics about finances and property. I don't know if I'll ever talk to her about the what and the why. I'm at a point where I wish she and the would just vanish. I don't have a burning need for answers. I look at it as having very little to do with me. I think I was marginalized as they built their own relationship. I definitely own that I wasn't really providing a fulfilling relationship in terms of our marriage, but I can only own 50% of that and only up until the point that she started investing in her other relationship instead of ours. So, it's not like I don't want to learn from this, I just think the best thing for me is to move forward and not look back. Everything is going very well. I'm 4.5 months past my separation date and thought I'd give a quick update. It's all good news. My STBXW and I sat down with our attorneys earlier this week and hammered out all of the details for a complete settlement. This was after we spent about $25,000 on attorney fees and got nowhere. My advice to anyone in a no-fault state: if you can interact amicably with your STBX, do a mediated divorce or just hire one attorney to work with both of you. 90% of the money was completely wasted on the attorneys intentionally complicating things versus trying to get to a resolution. My STBXW and I are on fine speaking terms. We've had to interact to sell the house I am living in, exchange property, etc. We're almost done there, and I'm moving into San Francisco and getting an apartment. Personally, I'm doing awesome. I'm down about 20 pounds. And nearly 4 inches on my pant size. I'm feeling great and have a very positive outlook on the future. I've been dabbling in online dating, but am more focused just on taking care of me at this point and getting settled in the city. Then I can turn on that spigot. I can't say enough how much you all have helped me through this process. Being further away now and looking back over my shoulder, I realize even more how important some of the decisions were that you helped drive me to, against my own instincts often. I'll check back in when things are final in February. Also, we are completely cordial as far as working through issues related to selling the house and finalizing the divorce, but we've not talked at all about what happened. She's never apologized, asked how I'm doing, nothing. I still haven't talked to I'm not sure if they're together. I do know that OM's GF left him, and he walked away from the house they owned together. Rumor is he got an apartment, which probably means he's living with my STBXW. But my attitude is, as above, who cares? I'll eventually care purely for financial reasons, and if I find out they are truly living together I'll get spousal support adjusted downward. I've got my own life to focus on now. Karma, God, balance of energy in the universe, whatever you choose to believe in, will take care of them in the long run. They're no longer my project. It's probably worth mentioning that several people have finally come forward and said to me either that they suspected or knew what was going on. I guess they confessed to me to make themselves feel better, because it sure doesn't make me feel better to know that others have known for a long time. Edit 45. Thanks for checking in. My story has a happy ending, although my ending is really just the beginning for me. The divorce is final early next week. We filed our stipulated judgment a couple weeks ago, which court just rubber-stamped within a few days. We just have to wait for the mandatory 6-month California mandated waiting period to expire, next week. Financially, this was painful. Half of all of my assets, gone. About $3,500 a month in alimony for almost 5 years, expensive. My freedom from liars and cheaters and my newfound happiness, priceless. I am really focusing on what I still have, which is still more than adequate. I feel very blessed. Instead of what I've lost. Karma has paid me off in spades. I got a great promotion at work. I found a super sweet apartment in San Francisco that brings me great joy. I've rediscovered some great friendships that had atrophied over the course of my marriage. I've discovered cardio boxing and am in the best shape I've been in 15 years. I've recently started dating a woman who had only been a friend for several years, and now we find ourselves in a position where a different type of relationship is possible. My life is good. I'm happier today than since I don't know when. All of my friends and coworkers are stunned by my transformation into a happier, more alive person. My thinking about my ex and the and the cheating have evolved, too. While I am still shocked by the depth and duration of the deception, I am harboring no anger or need for revenge or justice towards either one. They made bad decisions and now they have to live with the consequences. More than anything, I feel sorry for them, as they have to live with that guilt. I'd forgive them both, but neither has said they were sorry or shown any remorse. For me, they just exist in the rearview mirror. And I'm only looking out the windshield. Edit 46. She doesn't have many close friends nearby. I got a lot of holiday cards to our old address to both of us, so I'm assuming she hasn't told that many people back on the East Coast. I talked to the husband of her closest friend, and he told me she was having a hard time dealing with my XW's lying and cheating. By the way, my divorce is final today. As a homage to this whole event, and a bit of a cleansing ritual, I went back and retread this entire thread in my journal. It's amazing to read the things I was saying and thinking before I really discovered the truth. Thanks again to all of you who contributed advice, support or tough love along the way. Edit 47. Quick update. Went to the event this past weekend and yes, the two of them were there and were very obviously together. Almost every time I saw one, I saw the other. The one time I saw just my XW we chatted very cordially. The few times I saw he saw me too and headed off in another direction. He was holding her dog, the one she got as a companion, to replace me when I left, a lot. When they were walking around together, often he'd be the one holding the leash. He's clearly making an effort to show that they are together, pissing on the fire hydrant to mark his territory. What's great is that I have absolutely zero desire to get anywhere near that hydrant, and not just because it smells like piss. My new gal and a couple of her friends showed up Saturday afternoon. It's a little sad, I guess, that XW and didn't see them. The vain side of me probably would have liked that. However, a bunch of my good friends gathered around, and to a person everyone that met the new gal said the same thing, nice upgrade. Edit 48. I noticed they came in separate vehicles on Saturday, but that might just be to give the illusion that they aren't living together. My ex absolutely knows that if I find that they are living together that I will file to reduce alimony. It's a difficult decision for me. I want to not ever think about them and truly put it all far, far behind me. But yet on principle it will bother me if they are still taking advantage of me financially, so I want to pay attention if there are signs they're cohabitating. Realistically, the doesn't make much money, so even if I prove they're cohabitating, the financial analysis will show that he can't contribute much to reduce her cost of living, so I doubt I could reduce alimony by very much. While I've preached the kill him kindness mantra, it would be at least a little emotionally gratifying to put him through the ringer of having to prove to the court that he isn't worth anything and can barely support himself and certainly can't support his mate. At some level, it is just a cost-benefit analysis. Is a couple $100 a month worth me never having to think about it again, never having to re-engage with her, him? And BTW, I think new gal does look like a supermodel. Also, she is no longer STBXW, as of a couple weeks ago, she is a full-fledged ex, as the divorce is final as recognized by the state. And, to answer your question, she treats me like an old friend. Talked about how things were going at the event, wishing me good luck in my races, etc. It's so strange, but I'm fine with that, as it just makes dealing with her easier. And like I've said a few times on here already, I'm so incredibly happy with my new life, that it's hard for me to continue to harbor bitterness as to the circumstances that released me from my previous hollow relationship. Edit 49. Hey friends. 2 days ago marked 1 year since I confronted, walked out and filed. And perhaps the best indicator of how well I'm doing is that the milestone passed, and I forgot it was my anniversary. Quick status update. I'm doing great. It's almost impossible for me to believe that I tolerated so many years of subpar living in a relationship that was so unfulfilling. I'm happier and more vibrant now than I've been in 10 plus years. I've been dating my girlfriend for 6 months, now, and that's after knowing her for about 9 years in a completely different context. We're talking about the long term and have even had discussions about starting a family in due course. I've shed a considerable amount of the stuff I had accumulated over the years, and I've gone through a refactoring of my priorities for lack of a better term. I'm not focused at all on material possessions, but rather am finding joy in spending my time and resources on enjoying weekend vacations with my GF, working out, dinners with friends, bike, motorcycle rides, etc. It really is a rebirth for me. I've also had the opportunity to help others in similar situations. I've had 2 friends with wives in infidelity situations, and I've been able to apply the lessons I've learned here to support them. I also believe that I've helped to proactively save and strengthen the relationships of some of my friends by sharing with them the ideas and principles I learned in the Married Man's Sex Life Primer. Chaparral, I cannot even begin to thank you enough for turning me on to this book. I've said it before, it is the best book in the world with the worst title. I truly believe that understanding it has created a great foundation for my current relationship, and I have friends who have read it who have had similar reactions. Why don't they teach this to everyone in high school? Anyway, thought I'd do my 1-year check-in to once again thank you all for your unconditional support and tough love during a time when I really needed it. It was all worth it. Regarding the ex, no update of any significance. I suspect the OM is living with her at this point, but I couldn't possibly care less. He is a deadbeat as far as generating any income, so even if I cared enough to go after them for cohabitation, I'm sure since he provides very little in terms of financial support, it wouldn't make a difference to what I pay every month. So, I plan to just let that go. I still see her, and him, occasionally in our shared hobby. It's not a trigger for me. We're still very cordial in dealing with financial stuff, but we are interacting even on those matters less and less frequently. If I'm totally honest, I still occasionally feel like this has been simply too painless for the OM and am sometimes tempted to take some action to hand out justice. However, prudence and my track record of taking the high road kick in, and I once again trust that karma, whatever that is, will take care of him eventually. Also, he works, he just outspends his income. He's a financial disaster, can't even get a credit card. He's 48 and his parents had to co-sign so he could lease a car. My guess is that the 2 of them together will burn through the money she took from our marriage in just a couple years. Edit 50. Hey gang. While I appreciate the sentiments of how much it will bother my XW to see me with a young hottie, I'm in a very different place. I feel sorry for her. She's made some terrible decisions and the sort of selfishness she exhibits is never going to lead her to happiness. That's sad. I have absolutely positively no desire to hurt her. No desire to make her jealous. No desire to get even. No desire to focus even an ounce of attention on what is behind us. I have said before that I still harbor some frustration about how easy this has all been for the OM, and that's still there. But towards my XW, nothing. I know it might not seem rational, but that's truly how I feel. Edit 51. It's been 7 months since I last posted, so I thought I'd check in to let you all know that this is still a wonderful story with a continuing, happy ending, that I hope never ends. My GF moved in with me in November. We took a few months off work and traveled all over the world. I believe an engagement may be on the horizon. I rarely see my ex-wife, XW, anymore, but I'm still dealing with her on financial matters for another few years. The term of my alimony was just over 4 years. No triggers remain of any sort. It doesn't even bother me when I have to write the checks anymore. I just think about how much happier I am now and the incredible trajectory I'm on. Worth it. I still think about what a godsend this forum and you all were for me in a time of confusion and need. Your guidance and advice literally saved my life. Edit 52. Well gang, I think the time has finally come to put this thread to rest for good. I got married 2 weeks ago and my wife and I are expecting a baby boy near the end of the year. This is a great conclusion for the previous chapter of my life and the perfect start to the next. I will say it one last time. Thank you Tam family. I often look back with incredible appreciation for all the advice, tough love and support I got here. It really made all the difference and allowed me to make the bold moves I needed to make to move from a life of simple existence in a hollow relationship to a whole new world of fulfilling love and appreciation with my girl. And before anyone says it, no prenup. I was smart in how I have segregated my finances and the money I'm bringing into the marriage will sit aside and be there for us for retirement or for me should anything terrible happen before then. I have already told my ex-wife about my recent remarriage and impending child. She was happy for me and wished us both congratulations and the best. Mission accomplished. Edit 53. What am I thankful for today? How about the birth of my son last week? It's been a wild ride, Tam family, but the ending just keeps getting happier and happier. Mother and son are doing great, and I'm enjoying my new role as dad. I recount and am thankful for, every day, what a turnaround I've had in the last 2 years. For anyone who is going through tough times, please know that it can get better. Not just better than it is at the bottom, but better than it's ever been. Don't get caught up in the poison of holding on to anger. Let it go and move on. I wish the absolute best to all of you. Last update. Time for my quarterly check-in. Before I respond to some of the questions and posts, I'd like to say that life is good. My son is just past 4 months old and is the joy of my life. My wife and I are tired all the time, of course, but still manage to work well as a team to raise him. He's almost 19 pounds. At 4 months, a big boy. I still have to pinch myself sometimes when I think that it was only a couple years ago that my life seemed at such a low point. I hope this is an inspiration that taking the high road in a situation like mine, not focusing on revenge but rather on living well, can be a recipe for success and happiness. Don't let bitterness consume you. Now, to address some of the specific posts. Regarding ways to avoid having to interact with her, I pretty much do that. I have automated payments from my account to hers. But, because I have to do calculations every time she or I get some additional income, there seems every other month or so some little wrinkle that needs to be addressed. She gets a work bonus or a raise, I get credit for those. I get a bonus from work, quarterly, she gets a piece of that. So, I'm constantly having to email her and say, here's what the payments will be this month. None of this is a trigger for me, so it's not something I need to spend time or money trying to work around. It's just a pretty constant reminder that she still has a piece of me, and I hate that. That she gets to participate in my ongoing hard work and success sucks. I've had to rearrange my investment portfolio to avoid any sort of material gains in the next 2 years, since she gets 38% of anything that is actual income. Dividends, anything like that. To the question of whether the fact that we couldn't have kids could have led to the affair, yes and no. From what I pieced together with relative certainty, the affair started very, very close to when we first started trying, came off birth control. So, it's not like it was the result of frustration from years of trying. Was my decision to leave her rooted in the feeling that she couldn't give me children? Honestly, I can say I don't believe so. I was never the one pushing for kids. I am just not someone who had a deep-seated need to procreate. She was really the one driving that. When I got together with my second wife, my feelings about kids changed. I could see she and I, together, raising a family. I always had trouble visualizing that with my ex. So, maybe I did have those internal drives, I just wasn't with the right mate for them to surface? In any event, I maintain that the affair and our divorce was not about kids or lack thereof, but that certainly is an important context to the situation. To the question of whether I'm a doormat, just to the ones I love, That's probably a good observation. I'm not a timid person at all, but I was very timid and non-confrontational to my ex. Last update 2. I'm a couple weeks late to post this, but I recently passed the 3-year anniversary of my confrontation. I thought I'd give a quick update and again thank all of you who supported me through my whole journey. Things are good. My little guy is just over 9 months old and is happy, healthy and a constant source of joy. My wife is back to work, and we recently bought a home together. While that is a joyous occasion, it has the unfortunate effect of increasing the monthly support I have to pay her because of the additional interest tax deduction I get. While I usually love California, sometimes I hate it. But that's a small price to pay, no pun intended, and it's only for 2 more years. Now that we have some space, we're talking about increasing our family size by 1 more. I hope anyone reading this post who feels like their world is crumbling and that only dark days are ahead can capture a glimmer of hope here and realize that things can turn around quickly if you take the high road and don't let spite and anger control your decisions. Last update 3. For all you longtime thread watchers, I'm thrilled to announce my second child, daughter this time, arrived happy and healthy. Amazing to think about how far I've come in the last 7 years. From unhappy in a sham of a marriage to ecstatic with an amazing wife and a couple of awesome kids. There is life beyond divorce. Final update. Annual check-in for my longtime supporters and post-watchers. My kids are now 5.5 and 1 Oh, my wife and I are doing fantastic. Life is really, really good. I don't have any news to report on the XW and her husband. As far as I know, they're still together and doing fine. I don't hear much about them anymore from common friends and acquaintances, which is fine with me. I know that's a disappointment for all those eagerly waiting for karmic revenge. My guess is, that will come in time, so hold fast. Hope you all are safe and healthy amidst the pandemic. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.